Welcome back, dear friends, to the Vijay's classroom of biology. So, in today's class, we are going to discuss about the bacterial cell shape as well as the arrangement. In common term, it is said to be the morphology of the bacteria. So, grouping the bacteria based on the cell shape as well as arrangement was first proposed by Ferdinand Cohen in 1872. So, in his classification, he is just grouping the bacteria into three major domains based on the cell shape at first, and he is subgrouping the bacteria under each of these three domains based on the arrangement of each shape of the bacterium. So, firstly, he is classifying the bacteria after the microscopic view as a rod shaped cell, and that is called bacilli in plural form. In singular form, it is said to be bacillus. If the rod shaped cells are arranged in chains, strepto means chain in Greek term. If the rod shaped cells are arranged in chains, then it is said to be streptobacilli. If the rod shaped cells are arranged as a free form, they don't attach to each other, then they are called bacilli. Free form of the rod shaped cells are called bacilli. Usually, these two forms occur most frequently. Rarely, we find even the diplobacilli form. Two cells are arranged together in natural environment. So, those cells are very rare. Usual forms are streptobacilli and free form of the rod-shaped cells called bacilli. And the second group is called cocci, that denotes the spherical shape of the cell or the circular form of the cell. So, if they are a group of cells which are freely arranged circular or exactly spherical shaped cells, then they are called cocci. Singular is cocci, plural form is singular is coccus, plural form is cocci. And there is another group called subgroup called diplococci, where we find spherical shells to be arranged as doublet. Two cells are arranged in close contact to each other. They occur in the natural environment as diplococci. And there is another group called streptococci, where we find chain-shaped arrangement of the circular cells. And fourth group, staph means grape in Greek term. So there is a fourth group called staphylococci, where we find grape-like cluster of the circular cells called staphylococci. And there is another group called Sarcina. This one we have to imagine, or we have to observe with a point of 3D view, where it looks like the cubical shape arrangement. As we find a certain lattice point in the cube that are occupied by ions in the crystals. As we study in the solid state chemistry, here in microbiology, we do find a cubical shaped arrangement of bacterial cells, where it requires 8 corners to be occupied by spherical shells on the 8 corners and are attached to each other, forming a exactly cubical form. I will show in the next slide, and this one we generally view in a 3D mode. And in Gafkia, these are the two-dimensional arrangement of 4 cells forming a tetrad. Just 4 cells are arranged to form a tetrad. We can directly observe in 2D form. And there is another group called spirals. The term indicates that the cells are going to form some spiral shaped arrangement like coils. So there is a first group called Vibrio, where we find curved rod or bent rod. So the bacilli is just in a form of a curved shape, so forming the Vibrio subgroup. And there is another group called spirillum. Singular is spirillum and plural is the spirilla, where cells are arranged like coils, but are rigid coils. They may not be very flexible. They may not bend and revert back the shape of the cell. They are strictly, hardly they look like rigid, strong spiral shaped cells. Whereas in other group called spiracate, these ones are flexible spirals, like the threadings of the corkscrew. The cell is having the even coil shape arrangement. However, the cell is very long and they look like some bends here and there, forming a it's like you have to imagine a spring. That spring is a coil in its shape, but you can still bend the spring, isn't it? So similarly, the spirochetes are the flexible form of the spirals, and their cell shape is like the threadings of the corkscrew. So when you twist, when you keep the corkscrew on your surface, and when you twist it in order to stab it into the wood surface, so the threadings generally travel. So similarly, the cell also migrates in a corkscrew movement, and the cell is said to be spirocate in its shape. So here are some of the cells as well as its arrangement. First is the cockeye shape, and the other one is the bacilli or rod shape. Singular is the coccus, as well as the bacillus is the singular form of the bacilli, and spirillum is the singular form of the spiral shaped bacteria, which are rigidly spiral. And there is also some kind of flexible spirals called spirocate. Spirocate is the singular form, spirochetes are the plural form. And in arrangement, there are also free cells. There are also diploform of the cells. There is a chain form called streptoform of the cell. So here one example for coccus arrangement is given. Similarly, bacillus do appear in chain form. And this staphylococci group is a group of grape-like cluster of coccal cells. We may not find this kind of arrangement in bacilli. This is only peculiar to the cocci form, as well as tetrads are also peculiar to the cocci category, as well as I told you, the sarcina, there is a group of 8 cells arranged in the shape of a cube. So this is also peculiar to the group cocci. So here the colored image of cells where single circular spherical shaped cells, they look exactly spherical, and there is other group of cell called bacilli, they look like rods, and there are also curved rods. If they are strongly curved rod, then they are called spirillum, and if they are spiral flexible in their spiral shaped arrangement, then they are called spirochetes. So there are some exception to the shape. There is a shape called coccobacilli where you find oval shaped cells, and there are also cells that are arranged like the hyphae or mycelium of the fungi, and these bacteria are simply called filamentous bacteria or actinobacteria. There are some bacteria that do have some germ tube projections forming a small single hyphae compartment, as well as some bacterial cells do have some stalk-like structure that attaches onto the surface. So these ones are extracellular appendages. These bacteria are generally having some special appendages, and they are appendaged bacteria in general. This image is the scanning electron microscopic view of cocci shaped cells. We find free cocci as well as the diplococci forms. Here we find free rod shaped as well as the diplobacilli cells, bacilli as well as diplobacilli forms. And there are also curved rods simply called vibrio, under vibrio category. Under spirals category, the first form is the vibrio. Here we are visualizing the image of some curved rods. So with this understanding, we will be looking into detail about the ultrastructure of the bacteria in the next video, as well as the motility as well as the extracellular appendages that are present. Sometimes some appendages are present in few group of bacteria, or based on the cell shape as well as arrangement also, they are present somewhere, and they